This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Chapter 24, The Flight Down the Arinelle. And our symbol for this chapter is the harp.
I'm excited about this one.
This is a fun one.
And there's a lot going on in the background.
Yeah, there's a lot that happens in this chapter, and just a lot to talk about. But the chapter opens up with Rand in a dreamshard. Our typical water dripped in the distance, hollow splashes echoing and re-echoing, blah, blah, blah. Creepy place.
Back in Ishmael's head, sort of confusing maze of craziness.
The paving stones are made out of human skulls. All that
jazz. Yeah, he really likes paving stones made out of human skulls.
Yeah.
He's a big fan of that one.
Walking on top of people. And we see Ishmael searching for Rand through the maze. And I thought this was right here a sort of interesting thing to talk about. Because as we go through the dream shard, we see Rand even runs into Ishmael and just yells, like denies the dream, and manages to reappear somewhere else. And so we see him, what I thought of as successfully dream walking, I think is what's happening here. Why can't Ishmael find him?
I don't know. I honestly, this is not one that I have a lot of clarity on in terms of like what's going on in the maze.
It looked to me like even though Rand has gotten pulled into the dream shard, Ishmael can't actually locate him. And when he's able to get close, Rand
is
moves
somehow
again.
pulling away.
Yeah,
I can see that.
she's evading him inside his own dream shard.
And he says he's had 2 or 3 close encounters.
Yeah.
And I guess the other thing I thought that didn't really make sense is when he started to think about it as a dream, everything started to gel up.
The only way I could make that fit my theory is that because Rand doesn't know where he is and he doesn't know how to control Teleran-Riyadh, he's like accidentally tripping himself up when he thinks too hard about whatever. He makes things appear, or like this jelly that like maybe his fear manifesting that he's not able to
freezes.
Run. Yeah.
And that sort of like stopping and moving.
Or something like that.
Manifests somehow. I could see that. Yeah.
That's what made the most sense to me, because I don't know what Ishmael would be doing I don't know what Ishmael could do to make that happen to Rand. You know what I mean? For his own thoughts too.
No, I mean, we do see like Nynaeve make Black Aja dumb.
That's true.
So I have to wonder if maybe Ishmael is doing something in the dream to sort of change, like make Rand not be able to remember who he is. Because doesn't he like have trouble remembering?
Yeah.
Who he is and where he is and like, who am I? And I have to wonder if maybe that's not Ishmael sort of pushing on his thoughts in the dream, changing him a little bit, trying to force him into a situation where he sort of has to act instinctually. He doesn't have a chance to sort of be himself.
I like the theory.
I mean, the other possibility is like when he thinks of it as a dream, that gives Ishmael power over him. And so Ishmael's able to freeze him because he's looking for him.
That's possible.
Which I think is probably the more likely explanation.
And Rand like keeps repeating to himself that this is like, it's just a dream. This is only an illusion. Everything's made out of illusions here. And I think that is actually helping him in like a very direct sense.
I noticed that he's actually hurt by that thorn.
Yeah.
But, there's a little bit of that Teleran-Riyadh in it, that he's actually touches the thorn and because it goes through his thumb. I feel like sometimes in dream shards, there's a possibility of being hurt, but sometimes you're not actually hurt. Versus Teleran-Riyadh, where if you're hurt, you are, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Dream shards have different rules. Well, they're the rules of whatever you say the rules are the rules.
Yeah, they're weird.
I mean, I guess Teleran-Riyadh is kind of like that too.
Yeah. But we explain away a lot of the weirdness, I think, in Rand's early dreams with the fact that like dream shards have different rules, and it's different than Teleran-Riyadh.
Yeah. Rand wondering if Matt is in the same maze. It's possible.
I have to assume he's in his own version of the dream. that they wouldn't run into each other.
Oh, yeah. And Rand has this interesting thought. Also, he's wondering if Matt is there at the same time. And then he wonders, or are there two maces, two Baalzamons? His mind skittered away from that. It was too dreadful to dwell on. And that made me wonder if all three of the boys are having the same dream every night.
I imagine that he's pulling them in one by one. Do you think he's pulling them in to a dream shard all at the same time? And looking for all three of them, that they're all wandering around the same maze?
Maybe.
I would think he'd be doing it at different times.
But we saw in Berlin, like with the rat dream, that they all had like the same dream.
That's true. Pretty much
almost
at the same
exactly
time.
the same. That makes me wonder if he could pull each of them into 3 dream shards, each one in a separate. And they're like, maybe Ishmael isn't even there. He would only have to construct an image of himself.
And he just has those sort of 3 separate shards existing side by side?
Yeah, well, they do have conversations. I don't really know. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what's happening here.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really get a lot of clarification on this one.
No, but it's an interesting thought, and I have no answer for that question.
Guys, if you have any theories about these dream shards, please let us know.
Yeah, because we've certainly done enough talking about them.
Right. Because they're cool and they're little, but they don't quite follow the rules that I expect that we learn later in Riyadh.
Yeah. Well, we know Ishmael's in control of these things.
Right.
In some capacity.
He's creating them, definitely.
I think Rand is just manipulating it a little there accidentally. Like just through sheer luck, he's doing the right things. Because I think, if Ishmael had pulled, like, say, a Gween, like, 10 books later into a dream shard, she'd probably just murder him.
Oh, yeah.
It's...
Right. She'd have control. Well, Rand certainly is in control, because there's a section here where he remembers that thing about mazes where if you always turn the same direction, you can get out.
Yeah.
I don't think there is an out to this maze. I think that just sends him right into Ishmael.
Yeah, I have all that underlined.
Go for it.
So he does that, and then surprise flitted across Baalzamon's face, and his blood-red cloak settled as he stopped short. Flames soared in his eyes, but in the heat of the maze, Rand barely felt them. How long do you think you can evade me, boy? How long do you think you can evade your fate? You are mine. Stumbling back, Rand wondered why he was fumbling at his belt, as if for a sword. Light help me, muttered. Light help me. He could not remember what that meant. The light will not help you, boy, and the eye of the world will not serve you. You are my hound, and if you will not course at my command, I will strangle you with the corpse of the great serpent, which is great imagery.
Okay, I got to stop you, because there's so much in there to talk about before we keep going. First mention of the eye of the world, and the great serpent. So he's clearly aware the eye of the world is a thing. But what do you think about that phrasing? The eye of the world will not serve you. That implies that it has more like consciousness, really.
Yeah, that made me wonder if Baalzamon even knows what he's talking about, or even knows what the eye of the world is. Like, serve you? That's not how Sidon doesn't serve you.
I suppose.
Channel it.
Maybe the fact that it's been cleansed and he can use it for what he wants without being tainted is what he's talking about.
Possibly.
That like you have control over this untainted power, and it's not going to be of service to you. It's not going to serve you, as opposed to something that's serving him directly.
Right. So more like saying, like, even if you get it, it's not going to help you.
Exactly.
And then he says, "I will strangle you with the corpse of the great serpent," which he's basically saying, like, eventually I will win.
Yeah. And I think this is a bit of Ishmael confusing himself with the Dark One. He's pretty insane at this point.
Yeah.
And so he actually thinks that he is the Dark One. And I think that's sort of what he's thinking is, like, once the wheel of time is broken and the great serpent slain. Yeah, it's a little metaphorical, but it's a good metaphor.
Baalzamon stretched out his hand, and suddenly Rand knew a way to escape. A misty, half-formed memory that screamed danger, but nothing to the danger of being touched by the Dark One. "A dream," Rand shouted. "This is a dream." Baalzamon's eyes began to widen, in surprise or anger or both. Then the air shimmered, and his features blurred and faded. Rand turned about in one spot, staring at his own image thrown back at him 1,000-fold, 10,000-fold. So Rand travels inside the dream. And I think this is what it looks like when someone uses, what's the concept? Like when you have a need strong enough, and if you focus on it, or like you can, so he's trying to get away and he focuses on that and he shifts to somewhere else in the dream. But it looks like Belzamon is still in control of this place. It's not a real place.
There's something weird going on here because we get a bit of prophecy almost, or foreshadowing, with Ishmael merging together with Rand.
I'm making significant eye contact with Seth and nodding right now.
Yeah. That was definitely a sideways look. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Like,
There's more coming.
My theory, which I don't have a lot of evidence for, is that, yes, he did at that point pull him out of the dream shard and put himself into a prophecy dream.
Yeah?
I don't know. I mean, like, I couldn't make sense of it otherwise. That was my only good theory.
Right, and in the second part, I don't know what the hell this mirror thing is. I don't know where that would be or why that exists.
That's why I went with prophecy dream.
Yeah.
It's a more symbolism than anything else, because it's the symbolism of seeing Ishmael coming from behind him and then merging together into one.
That makes a lot more sense than still being in Teleran Riyadh. I think Rand right there removes himself from Teleran Riyadh, and I think that's why
the dream shard.
Yeah, from Ishmael's dream shard, and I think that's why Ishmael. I think he's legitimately surprised.
Exactly. Yeah.
That Rand can push back that hard, but then Rand drops into this. A red blur drifted across the mirrors. He spun, trying to catch it, but in every mirror it drifted behind his own image and vanished. Then it was back again, but not as a blur. Belzamon strode across the mirrors, 10,000 Belzamons, searching, crossing and recrossing the silvery mirrors. He found himself staring at the reflection of his own face. Pale and shivering in the knife-edge cold, Belzamon's image grew behind his, staring at him, not seeing, but staring still. In every mirror, the flames of Belzamon's face raged behind him, enveloping, consuming, merging. He wanted to scream, but his throat was frozen. There was only one face in those endless mirrors. His own face. Belzamon's face. One face.
Which is mirror image to Min's vision of two men merging to become one.
Yeah.
One dying, one surviving.
Oh my god, I just want to beat my head on the table right now. It's the yeah, I don't think he's in Teleran Riyadh anymore. I think he's this is some kind of prophecy dream.
That's my best guess.
I don't know that he ever has anything like this again, but I don't think it's Teleran Riyadh. And the second part of
I think he has a couple of prophecy dreams.
Does he?
He does. I don't think they're as obvious as Egwene's, if only because like we find out she's a dreamer and she starts to analyze her dreams. Rand has some dreams like that he just dismisses. And I think this is one of them. So I think that if we pay attention, we may find that he is also a bit of a dreamer.
I like that.
Which again would be a nice mirror to Ishmael, because we know Ishmael is a dreamer.
Yeah.
So just a thought. And it's just, I think it's so far down on his list of priorities of things he needs to control that maybe it just gives him some hints. Definitely some things here in the Eye of the World that I'm not super sure about.
Well, this is significant one way or another.
Right. I mean, it definitely shows that from the beginning, he was thinking about those two merging together into one. Love that foreshadowing. If nothing else, it's just really good foreshadowing.
With that, Rand wakes up on the deck planks, and I'll just read. Without thinking, he put his finger in his mouth. At the taste of blood, he stopped breathing. Slowly, he put his hand close to his face, to where he could see in the dim moonlight, to where he could watch the bead of blood bloom on his fingertip. Blood from the prick of a thorn. Oh, yeah. Showing that at least that part of the dream was real.
Right.
Or real in the sense that Teleran Riyadh is real.
Right. Right. In the same way that sort of the rat's backs being broken was real. Yeah. So he wakes up on the deck, and they're just sort of drifting down the Arinelle. One of the things I didn't realize is how often the Arinelle comes up in this series. They travel up and down this thing all the time.
Yeah, it's a major trade route, right? They're always talking about certain borderland crops that are hard to get. They have what do they call them? Ice peppers or something?
Oh, sure.
That are really expensive.
But I do know, like, the river passes right between Andor and Kyrian, and then goes down to Tyr. So you basically have, and goes up to the borderlands.
Yeah, if you look at the map, there's a huge network that runs right through the center of the continent. And it's like a really well-connected, like you could see how it could easily be used for trade.
Right. And I think the Arinelle is probably one of the biggest highways on that trade route.
Yeah. It starts up at Meridon, but it goes all the way down. I see this labeled as Arinelle up here. And it goes all the way up to here to Meridon and down through Whitebridge to Ilion. But then the river branches, like, there's so many of these side things or tributaries.
Tributaries, yeah.
That are also huge rivers. And these are all interconnected.
I mean, I assume the roads in this area haven't been all that well maintained. And one of the reasons that Andor is as powerful as it is because they have the ability to travel on those major riverways and do trade, especially down to Ilion and over to Kyrian.
That was an important part of how the United States was built up through the center of the country.
The Mississippi?
Using the Mississippi.
Yeah, coming up from Louisiana.
From Montana to Louisiana. I think.
I'll give you that. Yeah, I mean, we'd like to think the Oregon Trail was the most important way that people came out west, but I think waterways were really important as well.
Yeah, super important, especially for shipping goods anyway.
Right. I mean, before railroads were completed, the only way to really ship anything of any weight was on the river.
Yeah. We see Domon over the next couple of days just driving his crew, and I guess only letting them, like, some of them sleep in shifts so that he can run the boat all day and night. He never puts into shore again until he gets to Whitebridge. Well,
he's been followed for a while by Trollocs. This isn't just his first encounter. They have been after him for quite some time.
Well, okay. Well, Seth's theory that I really liked, it may have been when we were sitting here talking about it last week, is that Domon has all these items of power on his ship that he's been collecting. One is a seal of the Dark One, but there are other things. He doesn't even know what they are. He just knows that they're ancient, and so he collects these things. But one of the seals of the Dark One's prison is on that ship right now.
One of the 7 seals, yeah.
So he could be maybe literally getting chased by Trollocs. Like, he's not just being paranoid.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Because he's been chased for quite some time before he encountered Rand and Mat.
When I first heard him say that, I thought it was maybe more like he saw Trollocs all winter because he was up in the borderlands, and now he's running into them again, and he's just freaked out. He, like, just wants to... But maybe they've actually been chasing him the whole time. I don't think he mentioned specific instances, but I like that theory.
I've always thought that they were chasing him the whole time. That because he has the seal...
It makes perfect sense.
That they've been trying to get it back, and... Because he was in port, and he talks about how he was in port for the winter. I think that's where either a dark friend discovered he had the seal. Honestly, I think Gelb is a dark friend, and he is leading the Trollocs to him. And
he's such like a stereotypical dark friend too. He's like not hardworking. He's like really lazy. He's like skinny and frail and not poorly dressed, and that's like what a dark friend looks like usually.
And accuses.
It's funny, but it's true.
I mean, it's kind of what Fane looks like.
Pretty much Pat and Fane.
And he accuses other characters of being dark friends, which is almost always, projection.
Oh, God, yeah. Wait, is it Pedron Neal? Who's like...
The White Cloak?
Yeah. He's a dark friend, right? Is that the one? Oh, it was one of the White Cloaks.
There is, yes. But it's not. It's and it's not Bornhald. It's guys in the chat, do you remember who that is? The White Cloak dark friend. He's Bors in the beginning of Jacob Carden. Thank you.
Okay. I was just speaking of people yelling about dark friends and being a dark friend.
Yeah, he totally... Oh, of course, yeah. Totally. The White Cloak who... He gets the directive from Pedron Nile to keep Rand alive.
Oh.
And then he's told by the Fades to kill Rand. Pedron Nile wants to use Rand as like a false danger to unite the lands against under him.
Gotcha.
So he wants him alive. And then and they're both like, yeah, we're gonna kill you if you don't do this thing. And it's like, keep him alive, kill him. He's chicken Carden's dead either way.
Yeah.
But that whole thing goes down with the spy master who sucks and is the fake spy master. Man, all the White Cloak names. I have to do my research. I'm definitely behind on those.
I feel like I remember the character that you're talking about,
no.
but I did.
So he stabs Patron Nile, and then the whole thing falls apart. So I think Gelb is a dark friend.
I like it.
Yeah.
And I think in the next chapter we see Gelb causing more trouble.
Yeah, he just causes a lot of trouble, and he's just stereotypical. And, we do see him later in the series.
Yeah.
Do you remember? He pops up working for a Gleemen.
No shit.
Yeah.
I couldn't really remember, but I remember running into this guy, and I think he even like calls Rand, or maybe it's Matt, calls Matt out.
Yeah.
Later, and he like reminds him. He's like, "You don't remember me," or whatever.
But Matt doesn't remember him because of the holes in his memory due to the dagger.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, he's working for a Gleemen in Tanchico. They're trying to hunt down escaped Domani.
Okay.
Thanks.
Is that the right way to pronounce it?
Domani?
Domani? I always said domain.
I think I'm going with the audiobook pronunciation there.
Okay.
So he's trying to hunt down specific women, and he thinks Nynaeve looks like them, and so he like tries to abduct Nynaeve and Elaine. And then Gleemen's like, "Yeah, you're an idiot. They're not the people I'm looking for." And she steps in and beats the crap out of him. I did not make that connection the first few times I read the book, that he does pop up later to be that dumbass character that helps a Gleemen basically get together with Elaine and Nynaeve.
Oh, cool.
But he's got that footprint on his forehead for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Boot to the head.
And Gelb spends the next couple of days trying to turn the crew against Rand, Matt, and Thom, but everybody hates him.
He just seems like a pretty pathetic character. There's nothing going for him.
I think Rand has the thought at some point that everybody remembers the watch that Gelb didn't keep.
Right. He was just sleeping on watch. He neglected his duties.
Yeah.
And they knew they had Trollocs after them.
And now everyone's suffering.
Right.
Now the captain's running the crew harder than ever, and it's basically Gelb's fault. Like, you can't really blame these kids nobody's mad at Thom, Matt, or Rand for running from the Trollocs, like, of course.
And who's going to be mad at a Gleeman providing entertainment? They're pissed at their crew member who they didn't like to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Thom manipulates the hell out of that.
Oh, sure.
For the rest of the chapter.
Well, Tom's really worried about a mutiny.
Yeah.
Because the crew members are being worked so hard.
And Rand and Thom seem to notice. Rand notes that he notices the crew grumbling in corners, and notices that Thom is like everybody's friend until they're grumbling in corners, and then he's pointedly far away from where they are. Oh, and then I wrote down, this is kind of an aside, but Rand says something to Matt about Gelb, like, you better watch out for that guy. He's going to try to cause some trouble for us. And Matt says, can we trust any of them? Any at all? And I think that this is the dagger, the paranoia from Mashadar taking over. And we see it after this, like, really frequently. Yeah. But I feel like this is the first time where it's, like, really obvious.
Matt's being corrupted by the dagger. Yeah. It is taking hold, and it is doing things to him to make him paranoid.
We already know he's, like, holding it all the time now and everything. But this is, I think, the first time when he really acts strangely.
It's the first time I think Rand notices it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Whether or not he's acted strangely before. You know, he actually manages to keep trusting Rand long after he loses trust for anyone else, which speaks to their friendship.
Yeah, we see something about that. I don't know if that's in this chapter or one of the ones that follows shortly after, but Matt even says something to Rand, like, we're the only ones left from the two rivers. Like, we have to trust each other and nobody else.
Right.
And so Matt still trusts Rand.
For a little while.
Through Mashadar, yeah, for a little while.
Yeah.
Until he goes totally insane. But
right. But that's when they get to Camelin.
Highlighted Thom saying trouble won't come from Gelb. Like, it's going to come from the crew. Like, they're talking about mutiny. And if they mutiny, like, they're not going to leave outsiders who weren't involved alive. Because they could all be killed. Like, if they mutiny and there are witnesses. He says, basically, they're not going to leave any witnesses if this happens. So.
Right. I don't know. The mutiny always seemed a little far-fetched to me. I don't know. I'm not very convinced that there's going to be a possibility of a mutiny.
I could see why Thom would be worried about it. But then Thom says that thing, and he really shifts his focus. It seems like every time we see Thom throughout the rest of the chapter, he's either like telling Rand and Mat to do something that they don't know how to do, and then when they do it badly, he berates them for it, and like the crew laughs, and he's just like turning this whole thing into an entertainment.
Oh, he's definitely trying to keep the crew entertained, keeping them happy. Yeah. I mean, he's doing everything he can to make sure the mutiny doesn't happen. And partially he does that by, their cover story is, of course, that he is teaching his 2 apprentices.
Yeah, who are fresh apprentices, so it works perfect.
Right, because
they do everything really badly.
But I really like this quote where he talks about teaching them, where he's like, he says, "I don't know how to play at teaching, boy. Mm-hmm. I either teach a thing or I don't." He's also sort of teaching them talents they need to have.
Yeah.
And he's not only playing at it, but he knows that he doesn't know that Rand's the Dragon Reborn yet.
No.
He just thinks like, I need to get these boys some skills so they're going to survive in the real world.
And he actually says that out loud at some point, or he implies it. I think he says, for now, or like Rand's like, but we're headed to Camelin. Mm-mm. He's like, yeah, for now we are.
But after Tarvalin, I think they head to Tarvalin.
Yeah, and he just sort of implies like,
what are you going to do after Tarvalin?
Yeah, he was like, you were good up there on that rope, boy. Like, they pay big money down in like Tanchico and Ilion for those kind of acts. Absolutely. Like, if you have the heart for it, we should go down there,
Not that he has the heart for it.
No, but Thom perceives him as
right
because we should.
Well, we'll talk about that. I think that Thom is definitely not just teaching them A, as their cover, but also B, because he thinks that it's a really good skill for these kids to have,
and
no matter what their future
holds. The little
holds.
that they do learn keeps them from starving for a while.
That's one of my favorite scenes is when the 2 boys are on the road by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I really love that whole section.
Yeah.
So as they're going down the river, they encounter all sorts of interesting things on the banks.
Yeah, I was just about to read. I think the first thing that comes up is, here it is. Another time, when the eastward shore had become flat grassland again, broken only occasionally by thickets, the sun glinted off something in the distance. What can that be? Rand wondered aloud. It looks like metal. Captain Domon was walking by, and he paused, squinting toward the glint. It do be metal, he said.
I love that accent. It do be metal.
Yeah, he's such a perfect pirate stereotype.
I didn't realize that. It's totally a pirate accent.
And he's got like the funny facial hair. I think he shaves his upper lip.
Yeah.
But he has the rest.
Is there a name for that kind of beard?
It's like a Greek beard. They don't usually have hair on their upper lip. It was like a ancient Mediterranean thing. Okay. It was the barbarians in the north that they only had the mustache. They were famous for that. Oh, whatever.
Or didn't have the mustache?
Only had the mustache. They would shave the rest and just keep the stash.
But the Roman... I see. The Greeks had the, like...
Yeah.
The Greeks
unless they had a full face beard, they never just had a... Right. I don't know if Robert Jordan's trying to tell us something or just pulling that image from somewhere.
Or it's just a beard style.
He's not that. I don't think he's telling us for anything.
No. Well, I mean, who knows? So that's the Tower of Genji.
Yeah.
Which is one of the doorways to the Aelfin and the Eelfin. And this is super important that he notices it because this is how he's able to rescue Moraine in Book 13.
Yeah. 200 feet high it be, and as big around as a house, with no mark on it and never an opening to be found. I'll bet there's treasure inside, Matt said.
I mean...
Predictably.
Moraine will be inside.
Yeah,
eventually.
yeah.
That's treasure. But I mean, that's where Matt loses his eye. I mean, it's just such a cool... I don't know.
Yeah, it's cool that we're sailing by it, and we don't understand the significance of it yet. It's such an important thing.
Right.
Later.
Right. And what's the key to get in is drawing the...
with a copper dagger? Or bronze?
Bronze.
I think it's bronze, yeah.
Yeah.
And I forget the symbol, but I think you're right.
I always think of it
like
as
a triangle with
a triangle with a squiggle across it.
Yeah. Oh, for fox and snake.
Yep.
Makes sense. I'll bet there's treasure inside, Matt said. Mayhap, lad, the captain rumbled. There be stranger things in the world this, though. On Tremel King, one of the sea folks' isles, there be a stone hand 50 feet high sticking out of a hill, clutching a crystal sphere as big as this vessel. There be treasure under that hill, if there be treasure anywhere. But the island people want no part digging there, and the sea folk care for naught but sailing their ships and searching for their Kuramor.
All right, so 2 things to talk about there. The Sa'angreal on Tremalking.
Yeah, which is, well, one of the 2 most powerful Sa'angreal ever created.
This is the female half on Tremalking.
Is it?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
I checked. Well, because the male one is the one that Rand runs into later.
That's on the mainland
That's
somewhere.
on the mainland, yeah.
Like outside of Tyr, I think. Or somewhere
No,
in
out of Carienne.
Oh, is
it's
it?
on his way into... Because that's right when he plays the game of houses.
Okay.
And like they're like, hey, you stopped at this thing. It was a project of the king's to dig it up. What's your interest?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's
It's
what
like,
started.
I don't know.
I don't have any interest in it.
It looks cool.
Yeah. It drew me in. So the one on Tremalking is the female Sa'angreal.
Okay.
That later he gets the access keys to. The Choden Call is what they're called.
And then after Rand and Nynaeve cleanse the source, don't all the inhabitants commit suicide or something?
They do.
Because
Yeah.
they have some weird cult.
The end of the dream. That's why they want nothing to do with it. Is that basically when it glows, that's the end of the dream. And that's when they all...
Yeah.
I mean, I think the prophecy is the last battle is coming, and they've misinterpreted it as the end of the world, and so they kill themselves, which is a great tragedy to the sea folk.
I didn't realize that. It is a sea folk isle.
Well, yeah, the people of Tremalking aren't specifically sea folk, but they trade with them, and they're close.
I got you.
But they're different cultures.
I see.
And then, of course, the sea folk are looking for their Kuramor, which we know is Rand.
Yeah.
So at this point, the sea folk are looking for him, and have been for some time.
Yeah. Is that just something they do all the time, like the traveling people looking for the song?
No, I think specifically things have changed, and Bail Domon is commenting on that. That they are now... Because doesn't he talk about how they're traveling without holds full of cargo in places they wouldn't normally go and stuff like that?
Yeah, you're right.
So they're actually looking for Rand right now and have been probably for the last couple of years. Maybe last year. I hadn't noticed the Kuramor was mentioned so early in the series.
Yeah, I didn't really either. And then Captain Domon goes on, and he says, basically he's talking to Matt, and he's saying, "No, lad, it no be the treasure that makes for seeing the world. If you find yourself a fistful of gold or some dead king's jewels, all well and good, but it be the strangeness that pulls you to the next horizon. In Tanchico, that be a port in the Irith Ocean, part of the Panarch's palace were built in the Age of Legends, so it be said. There be a wall there with a frieze showing animals no man has ever seen." "Any child can draw on animals nobody's ever seen," Rand said, but the captain chuckled. "Aye, lad, so they can. But can a child make the bones of those animals? In Tanchico, they have them all fastened together like the animal was. They stand in part of the Panarch's palace, where any can enter and see. The breaking left 1,000 wonders behind."
Those bones are later seen by Elaine and Nynaeve. That's actually where Nynaeve fights Moghedien.
Right. One is a giraffe, right?
And I think one's an elephant.
Okay. Yeah.
They talk about it having like a gigantic single eye, but that's actually like where the trunk goes.
Oh.
So if you read those carefully, it's like giraffe and elephant bones. And and there's also a Mercedes-Benz symbol in that room. and of course another one of the seals. Because he talks about there being
Oh yeah.
Quendiar in the Panarch's palace. And that is there is a collection of Quendiar, including the seal. Another one of the seals.
And Domon mentions a couple other things that I don't quite remember what these might mean. I know, well, okay, he says light sticks and razorlace and heartstone. A light stick sounds like some kind of terangrial.
I assume it's just a terangrial that lights up.
Like a flashlight.
Yeah.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Razorlace? I don't know what that is.
My best guess, or I Googled this.
Okay.
Barbed wire.
All right.
Or some sort of magical equivalent thereof. No idea, though. I don't think we ever get any follow-up on that.
And Heartstone is a name for Quendiar. And then he goes on to say some other things. A lot of this I wasn't sure about. A crystal lattice covering an island, and it hums when the moon is up. We don't know what that is.
I have no idea. If anyone has any ideas, I'd love to hear from you, because that's a weird one.
A mountain hollowed into a bowl, and in its center, a silver spike 100 spans high, and any who comes within a mile of it dies.
Yeah, so how tall is 100 spans? So a span is the distance measured by the human hand from the tip of the thumb to the tip of the little finger.
So that's about
8 inches.
8
inches. 9 inches. So 100 spans, you know, talking 50 feet tall?
Yeah.
Maybe 75? So it could be a radar dish, could be just I definitely saw that online as a possibility. The fact that anyone who comes close means it could be emitting some sort of radiation. Or it could be some sort of 1 power item that kills anyone who comes close. They don't talk about how it kills them.
Yeah, when I've read it, it made me wonder if it was some kind of terangrial that, like, maybe a weapon or maybe something that is damaged, or like whatever its intended purpose was, it's like stuck or broken or something, and it just kills everything now. Or, you know, it could be anything really.
Or I think of it as maybe like it could be radioactive, and the silver spike is meant as a warning, so you can see it from far away.
Yeah.
Again, don't know. I don't even know where that is. That never really turns up.
Yeah.
I don't think we get any follow-up on that one either.
After that, rusted ruins and broken bits and things found on the bottom of the sea. Things not even the oldest books know the meaning of. I've gathered a few myself.
And that's a really important line, because one of the things he's gathered is a Quendiar seal, one of the seals to the Dark One's prison. And he picked that up in the Borderlands.
Oh.
He got it. I think he traded for it. And that's why he's been followed by the Trollocs ever since he picked that up.
Interesting.
There's a whole scene where he looks at the items that he has and tries to figure out, like,
right,
what the Trollocs are after him for. And I think he comes down. Oop, I got the hiccups. I think it comes down to something between the seal and like one other old statue or something like that. And he remembers, I picked this up in the Borderlands.
I want to say the statue turns out to be an angrial of some kind.
I've seen some debates about that some of the things he have might be an angrial.
But like literally anything could be an angrial.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and like there's just, without a channeler holding them, it's hard to really be sure.
Yeah, unless Avienda holds it.
Right.
Nobody really knows.
Right. Matt then says, hey, we've seen some crazy stuff ourselves.
Yeah.
Talks about going up into the sand hills and finding a big fish bones.
Oh, yeah.
I assume...
some kind of fossil.
Yeah, I assume whales.
Maybe.
Because the sand hills make me think that it's maybe where the ocean was before the breaking.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the waves went away...
oh, yeah.
it left whales stranded and the bones of whales.
Rand says, strange bones. There was part of a fish. I think it was a fish. As big as this boat once. Some said it was bad luck. Digging in the hills.
Yep, I'm going with whale.
That sounds right.
So then we get a bit of a cut, right? And Rand finds himself 4 days later.
4 days into their trip downriver.
Yeah. Now, this is significant.
Very specific narration, too.
Very specific. Last time Rand channeled, he was helping Bella. And then 10 days later, he gets a little silly with the White Cloaks.
Yeah.
The next time Rand channels, he basically knocks a Trolloc over with his boon of the ship.
Yeah. And he unties
he breaks it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why Gelb is in trouble, is because Gelb didn't tie down the boon when Rand actually, one of the reasons that it came loose is because Rand channeled it loose. And so we know that was 4 days ago, because that's 4 days down of the journey. And
yeah,
very specific
actually
about
tells
that.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the significance of the 4 days, because what he's having is his second channeling sickness.
That's right.
And it's getting closer, the way Moraine described.
And
First,
this
it was
one's
10 days.
even crazier than last time.
Yeah, I mean, he loses inhibitions, and whether that's, if you're in front of White Cloaks, you make fun of them. Whether you're on the top of a boon, you lift up your arms and legs and go flying. Like, he's basically drunk.
Yeah, I was just about to say, that sounds like being drunk.
Yeah, he's just randomly drunk, like
Just
for
like,
no
you know
reason.
what would be a good idea? And then you do it.
Right. When you're sober, your mind's like, no, self-preservation.
Like, yes, funny thought,
Yeah.
but...
But here, he loses his inhibitions.
Should I read it or should we skim over this?
Go ahead and read some of it.
Okay.
I think it's something that maybe if people haven't considered in light of him having a channeling sickness may be confusing.
Okay. 4 days into their trip downriver, found Rand atop the mast, sitting on the blunt end with his legs wrapped in the stays. The spray rolled gently on the river, but 50 feet above the water, that easy roll made the topmast sway back and forth, through wide arcs. He threw back his head and laughed into the wind that blew in his face. The oars were out, and from here, the boat looked like some 12-legged spider creeping down the Arinelle. He had been as high as this before, in trees back in the two rivers, but this time there were no branches to block his view. Everything on deck, the sailors at the sweeps, the sailors at the sweeps, men on their knees scrubbing the deck with smooth stones, men doing things with lines and hatch covers, looked so odd when seen from right overhead, all squat and foreshortened, that he had spent an hour just staring at them and chuckling. He still chuckled whenever he looked down at them, but now he was staring at the riverbanks flowing by. That was the way it seemed, as if he were still, except for the swaying back and forth, of course, and the banks slid slowly by. Trees and hills marching along to either side, he was still, and the whole world moved past him. On a sudden impulse, he unwrapped his legs from the stays, bracing the masts, and held his arms and legs out to either side, balancing against the sway. For 3 complete arcs, he kept his balance like that. Then suddenly, it was gone. Arms and legs windmilling, he toppled forward and grabbed the forestay. Legs splayed to either side of the mast, nothing holding him to his precarious perch but his 2 hands on the stay. He laughed, gulping huge breaths of fresh, cold wind. He laughed with the exhilaration of it. "Lad," came Tom's hoarse voice. "Lad, if you're trying to break your fool neck, don't do it by falling on me." And we see that Rand has been up there for like hours, maybe.
For a while.
He describes just sitting up there peacefully for like an hour, and then he starts doing these ridiculous antics. And that was a lot of nautical terminology that I don't understand, but I'm just imagining him like doing a silly balancing act on top of this really tall pole.
Well, and it's not just that it's on top of the pole, because the ship is swaying side to side.
Right.
And the pivot point is where the ship meets the water. And so if you're standing on deck and the ship sways side to side, you move a few inches.
Oh, yeah. So he's really moving back and forth.
But that pole really amplifies that movement. And so you're swaying way far back and forth. And it's moving all over the place. And if you fall, you're probably going to hit the deck.
Yeah.
And if you don't hit the deck, you're going to end up in the water and the boat's going to leave you behind. So it's pretty dangerous up there. Like a fall is bad news.
You will probably die.
You will probably die. Yeah, I mean, I actually don't know how tall the masts are, but
I think we might get a number in there, but high. Like, I was thinking like 30, 40 feet, right? Because isn't it I want to say it's a 90-foot boat, but I don't remember where I'm getting that number from.
High enough to make you go splat.
We do hear the dimensions at some point.
Yeah.
Somebody says like it's this many paces long, and
It's a decent sized boat.
yeah. And then Rand is like, "Oh, come down? Okay." And he just like slides down this rope in a funny acrobatic way and like does a somersault and like sticks his arms out when he gets to the bottom. And there's like a few confused sailors like
yay. I mean, obviously that's super dangerous, right? Like,
yeah.
you lose your grip as you're sliding, you know, rope burns. Come on. But fortunately, his little stunt, makes him appear to be doing it on purpose as part of the training.
Right. And Thom plays it off like that when he's talking to the captain and the sailors.
But Thom is really confused.
Right.
He's like, "What are you thinking? Like, that was the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen."
I just wanted to see if I could find anything that Thom says, but he doesn't actually say very much other than like, I don't know what the hell you were thinking, but
Well, I have to wonder if Thom isn't noticing some behavior in Rand that he may have seen in Owen.
Maybe. That doesn't even seem like a far stretch.
That just he sort of is noticing that sort of giddiness. That's entirely possible. I mean, Moraine knows about it. She describes it.
Mm-hmm.
And we know Owen was learning to channel, so it's very possible that he went through some of the same situations, and Thom may have recognized it. Or he could just be like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
You're being a dumbass boy.
Could be. I feel like it's more in Tom's character to probably...
I always assume Thom knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And you think he'd make more of a big deal out of it if he didn't know what was going on.
Well, Rand hits the ground and sees Matt with his dagger and says, like, hey, did you get that from Shadar Logoth? And then they have that short, quick conversation where Matt's like, don't tell anyone.
Right. This is the first time he sees that dagger. Up to this point, Rand had no idea he had it.
Yeah. Not anybody, Matt insisted. Not Domon, not Thom, not anybody. We're the only two left from Emmons Field, Rand. We can't afford to trust anyone else.
Yeah, and that's that paranoia taking hold.
For sure. I think I only have two more things. One is what we were just talking about, where Thom walks over to Rand after, like, soothing Captain Domon and the crew. He says, I didn't know you had such a good head for heights, lad. We might be able to play in Ilion or Ibu Dar or even Tyr. People in the big cities in the south like tightrope walkers and slackwire artists. We're going to... At the last minute, Rand remembered to look around for anyone close enough to overhear. Several of the crew were watching them, including Gelb, glaring as usual, but none could hear what he was saying. To Tarvalon, he finished. Matt shrugged as if it were all the same to him where they went. At the moment, lad, Thom said, sailing down beside them. But tomorrow? Who knows? That's the way of a Gleeman's life. He took a handful of colored balls from one of his wide sleeves. Since I have you down out of the air, we'll work on the triple crossover. And I like that Thom is planning, or not necessarily planning, but he's laying a rough outline for a possible future where Matt and Rand are his real apprentices, and he just goes with it.
I'm nodding. I also notice here that Matt's still having the dreams.
Yeah.
I had a theory that the dagger prevented him from having them. I appear to have missed this. Matt's still having the dreams, so it must be the medallion that protects him from them, not the dagger.
Yeah, maybe. I'd like to know more on that. And then the only other thing I have for this chapter is it's the very last couple of lines. Rand's gaze drifted to the top of the mast and he shivered. What's happening to me? Light. He had to find out. He had to get to Tarvalon before he really did go mad.
Yeah.
It's...
I think we were talking earlier about how going to Tarvalon really wouldn't be that good of an idea for him.
Nah, probably end up dead.
He wouldn't have the skills to protect himself. A third of the Aes Sedai are Black Ajah.
And imagine if Rand were gentled. Everybody's screwed.
Yeah. Oh, terrible idea.
He probably wouldn't even make it that far. I feel like he'd end up dead before.
I mean, I could see maybe if Moraine, like, smuggled him in and she had Suan as an ally and they treated him just as, like, not the Dragon Reborn and somehow...
Yeah. Make him train with the warders or something.
Yeah, something like that, maybe. Like, I could see how that could be maybe going down that angle. But bringing him in as the Dragon Reborn? No way. No way. Terrible idea. And I just said, Rand, he crashes hard after his trip. He's not feeling good.
Yeah, I'm happy to be breaking into, like, the real plot at this point.
And different storylines. We're not just stuck on one. We get to bounce between them a little bit.
Yeah.
Natural breakpoints.
Almost out of room in this marble notebook.
Good.
I usually take 2 or 3 pages of notes and, like, copy out quotes and write down ideas that I'm going to talk about.
My Google Doc is taking a while to load that I do all my notes in. It's like I bring it up and I, like, load the first page and the second. I think I'm on, what page am I on? Like 35, 40 pages of notes.
Yeah.
We take a good amount of notes. Not that I'm writing full sentences or anything like that, but
Yeah, what my notes have kind of evolved into are a lot of I'll write a page number or maybe a location, and I just have it highlighted in the book. It'll be quote about, or this thing happened. What's that about? And I just write things like that. So I can refer back to the book, go through my notes and refer to the book. So I'm flipping through both at the same time.
Right.
Kind of.
I'll do some copy and paste of quotes, but then I just like a word or two. I like to do a little less direct reading.
Yeah.
And more speculation, more sort of talking about it.
I like that though. I think it's a good dynamic that we have going.
Yeah, because I'm not always following along directly. I just want to talk about the points that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Whereas I think you keep us anchored more in the plot of each.
Yeah, it's a way to drive
chapter.
us forward too. I kind of try to use it that way. The Swalers at the sweeps. The Swalers.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or your favorite podcast client.